Okay, while the cheesecake is cooking, Audrey also wants for her special weekend at her Mima and Hank's house to, she wants basically turkey and dressing for lunch tomorrow after church. And while I don't have a turkey, I do have a chicken, but that doesn't mean that you can't make dressing. And no, it's not Thanksgiving, it's the middle of August. But if my baby girl wants dressing, I'm going to teach her how to make dressing. It's nothing hard at all to it. It's the easiest thing in the world. So we're going to start out by making the cornbread. And the cornbread comes from a tried and true recipe out of the Better Homes and Gardens new cookbook, which just happens to will be 49 years old this December, so it's not that new. But as you can tell, the page is dirty, so the recipe must be good because I've used it a lot. So we're going to get the ingredients together to make the cornbread. We will not be putting sugar into this since we are making dressing out of it. If you were making this recipe just to eat, 2 tablespoons of sugar in it makes it more delicious than ever. We'll be back with you in a couple of minutes once we've got the ingredients gathered up.
We just discovered that one of the most important things to do is make sure that you have all of the ingredients before you start.
So we're off to the grocery store because we only have a half a cup of cornmeal and we need a whole cup. So we'll be back. Okay, we've got our ingredients assembled once we made a mad dash to the grocery store for more cornmeal. So we're going to start off with our flour. We're going to pour our flour, or 1 cup of flour, and we've added to that a tablespoon of baking powder. We're going to put our cup of cornmeal. We're going to add to that a half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to have Audrey open up her hand and cup it, and I'm going to pour the salt into her hand. That is a half a teaspoon of salt. She's going to put that in there. And she's going to rinse her hand off again because she's got salt all over her hand now. We're going to add to that 1 cup of milk, 2 eggs, and 1/4 of a cup of liquid cooking oil or bacon drippings if you've got bacon drippings, but since this is for dressing, we're going to use oil. Okay, we've already got the oven preheating to 425, so we're going to lift the mixer up and we're going to put this on about 4 on the mixer. Look on the side and do 4.
That was on 4.
We're going to mix all that together. Okay, that looks good. You want to stop the mixer. Okay, let's lower it back down and take the beater out. Now just leave that sitting in there and pull the pan off. Okay, now scrape down the sides. And get all the goodies off of the beater also, okay? Okay, now she is going to pour that into, I have sprayed a baking dish, And she is going to pour that. Okay, wait, before you do that, kind of go around the edge and make sure that everything is mixed together in there. Okay, that's good. Now for Thanksgiving, I make 4 recipes of cornbread to make the Thanksgiving dressing. But since it's just going to be the 3 of us this weekend, we're just making 1 recipe of cornbread. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera off, or trade places with the camera. I'm going to let her hold the camera a minute, and I'm going to finish scraping the bowl. To get all of the mixture out. The oven is already preheated, so we're going to take this and we're going to put it into the oven, and we are going to cook it for 20 minutes. And when 20 minutes is up, we'll come back and see what the cornbread looks like. In the meantime, as far as the cornbread goes, we've got about 5 more minutes left on the cornbread, and we're going to let that cool off before we try to make the dressing or anything for tomorrow. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, Audrey and I are fixing to assemble turkey dressing. I'm going to show you this recipe here that I typed when I was about 12 years old off of instructions that my mom gave me. So this recipe card itself is about 56 years old. Okay, what we're going to do first is Audrey is going to roughly cut up this dressing or this cornbread that's in this pan, and she's going to crumble it up into pieces into that green dish right there. And this doesn't have to be pretty, it just gets it into workable sections for you. Okay. You need that spoon? You got it? Okay. Put that bowl right in front of you. And she is going to be crumbling up that cornbread into little bitty pieces, and we'll get back with you in a few minutes. While she's doing that, I am going to be chopping up some celery and some onions to put down inside there, and we'll get back with you in a minute as to how to assemble this. Okay, I'm fixing to chop up this celery, and one thing my mom always did was to take the ribs off the celery so that you didn't have strings in it while you were cutting it up. So that's what I'm fixing to do there, and I'll show you what chopped up celery looks like when I get through. Okay, I've taken the ribs off the celery. I had about 2.5 pieces of medium-sized stalks of celery, and I have chopped them up, and I have chopped up about 1/2 of a medium-sized onion. And what Audrey's doing now is my mother's recipe, or my grandmother's recipe, always called for white bread to be put in with the cornbread. It helps give it volume, and it absorbs some of the liquids. And my mother always used canned biscuits. And these are when you go to the grocery store, they're the ones that come in the 4-pack with the 10 biscuits, just little biscuits, not the grands or anything. And she is just crumbling them up into little pieces and putting them in the cornbread that she's got there. Okay, Audrey is stirring the pieces of biscuit that she's chopped up or cut up into little pieces, and she's mixing it in with the cornbread. And we are going to dump the celery and onions in. I'm going to slide this over here, and she's going to slide them off and into the bowl. Okay, and I'm also going to get some walnuts out of the refrigerator, and we're going to chop them up and put them down in there too. I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I put a rough chop on about about 1/4 of a cup of walnuts and put them down in there. Now what we're going to do is we are going to crack 2 eggs and put down in there. And then add some chicken stock and put salt and pepper and sage in it. Stir it all together, and we're going to taste it to see if we need any additional seasoning in it. So I am going to one hand crack an egg. I've got some chicken stock here that I had in the refrigerator from a chicken I cooked up the other day. I reserved the stock on it, and I'm going to ask Audrey to go into the kitchen and look in the cabinet by the dishwasher on the bottom and get the strainer out.
I could.
This is still kind of cold from being in the refrigerator. We didn't want to heat it up too much, so I'm just going to sit there and smush it through the sieve. What I'm trying to not get in there is the little pieces of chicken that was in there when I Okay, I'm going to put this back in the microwave and warm it up a little bit more. And I'll be back in a minute. There are 2 eggs in here. I've poured about 1.5 cups of chicken stock down in here. I've got about a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper and about 2 teaspoons of sage in here. So I'm going to mix it up to see how much more liquid I need to add to it. And we do need more liquid. That was about maybe 2.5 cups of chicken stock that I put down in there. And I think that is going to be more than enough. It's going to be wet enough to where I'm not going to have to add milk in it. If you run out of chicken stock, my mom always used to put milk down in there also. I have found a piece of onion that did not get cut up very small. So while I'm stirring, I reached in there and here's another piece. If you see something that's not the right size or the size that you know, it's not consistent with the rest of them, go ahead and stop and cut that. That way when it's cooking in the oven, it all cooks at the same consistency. I missed a bunch of little pieces of onion.
And that's what pepper will do. It's the pepper.
Yep. We were sitting too close to the pepper when I poured it in, and both of us have got a little slight cough in our voice right now. Okay, I'm going to go get us a couple of tasting spoons. I found another piece of onion.
That's huge. Okay.
Okay, for about the past 4 or 5 years, Audrey's been one of my taste testers to see if I need to add anything else to the dressing. So we're both going to take a bite. A little more sage and a little more salt. Okay, so I'm going to sprinkle a little more sage on there and a little more salt, and we're going to stir that up. Because if you taste it in the spot that I just poured it all in, it's going to be way too strong. But you got to stir it up first to see if you've got it mixed correctly. And lo and behold, here's another piece of onion.
Oh my gosh, Nina.
I missed a whole slew of them. Alright, I got that cut up. Alright, let's give it another taste. Pretty near perfect, right? Alright. So, we are going to cover this up with the lid and put it in the refrigerator. And tomorrow, while we are at church, I am going to put it in the oven and cook it along with the chicken. And we'll show you what it looks like tomorrow after we get through cooking it. Okay, there's the finished product. We have a roasted chicken, and we have a small casserole dish of turkey dressing, cornbread dressing, and green beans for lunch.